and welcome back to
It's different. Welcome. Talk about the high.
Now you're working for something.
balancing life, church, comment and share, please.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Catch
Hello.
Podcast. Today, me, Hadassah, I'm on with
I was like, wait, what?
on with Dakota and Nate. Welcome back, guys. Yeah. So today we're talking about something that is kind of like the whole premise of Christianity, which is living for eternity instead of living for the temporary.
Yes.
Why do you guys think this is such an important topic to be addressed within the Christian community?
I can go.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that's excellent. Again, my name is Nate, for people who don't know, or Nathaniel, as I prefer. No, I think it's kind of, like you said, it's like the core of Christianity. Like, once you give your life to Christ, the whole purpose is to look for and to live your life as if you don't belong here on earth anymore, right? It's life is temporary. The Bible describes it as a vapor. It's like something that's not supposed to be forever. And so a lot of the decisions that we make here, although they are temporary, can have a permanent impact on a lot of things. More specifically, as Christians, your impact's in eternity. And so I think it's very important that we, as Christians, have that mindset of this is temporary, and what is before us is the most important thing, because you could live, 70, 80, 90 years here on earth, but eternity is like, that's forever. So it's in the grand scheme of things, it's very important to set your mind on like the long term instead of the right now.
Yeah.
I almost feel like we shouldn't be, I feel like we should really switch this. Instead of saying temporary, we say the moment. Because I feel like that's what a lot of people nowadays are doing. They're living in the moment.
Yeah.
And they don't really have that necessarily like that end goal in mind. And I think that that's kind of why it's an important topic. But it's also what people are living for, not just for the moment, but what their goals are, I think is, because, obviously we have heaven in mind, but people who are not Christians, they have their own goals in mind that they want to hit or set. And some of them don't.
Yeah.
Some of them are just living life without and I have some coworkers that are like that. And it's just like, work is all they do. And they go home and it's just like, but there's no purpose. There's no, you have no, you don't believe you have a destiny to do something or accomplish something. Like your job is it. You know what I mean?
And to me, it's scary because I just don't know like how you survive like that. Like how do you not mentally break at some point? Like, why is life worth living if you have no purpose, no end goal, no nothing? Yeah. Like how does that work?
Yeah, that's it's very interesting because especially in today's society, it almost seems like the more we go on in life, it seems like people are just living for the moment. Yeah. And selfishly kind of just living for themselves, because obviously we can get into the whole temporary thing on earth and you die and go to eternity. But even more so in a smaller scale, like I was saying before, the things you do here on earth could have a lasting impact. I feel like people have lost the love and passion for leaving legacies behind. It's kind of just like,
that's so true.
What can I just do now for myself? YOLO type situation. I know that's like an older term, but still just like, what can I do now? How can I satisfy my, my, gratifications now? But it's not, let me do this for somebody else. Let me, the generations that come, even our ancestors in the past, kind of like focus on how can I make the next generation better? Grandparents, like how can I, now it's just like, what can I do for me? It's almost like everyone has like this apocalyptic mindset that things are gonna, crash and burn very soon. So like, let me get everything I can right now. And they live for the temporary and they don't really think about how much they can really impact people long term. And it's kind of a sad thing because this life is temporary, but there's so much good you can do in this world before you leave it. And your name in a sense can, I don't want to say be eternal, but your name can, can last generations if it's good, And so I feel like people have lost that passion and love for that.
I think that's so true. And I really wonder if that's the case outside the U.S. as much. Because I feel like especially like Middle Eastern cultures have more of a family and legacy mindset as opposed to Americans. And I think a lot of it has to do with just the economy and the current state of our country. And it's like, do you even want to raise kids here?
Exactly.
Like, is that something that you even want to do? And so when it comes to that, like, we all have natural, temporary, excuse us.
She always has random alarms at different times. You're hilarious.
I was supposed to be doing my homework. Homework's already done. So
there you go.
Praise God.
When it comes to that, I feel like we all have like temporary things that pull on us. Like you have immediate bills that are due. You have immediate stresses and worries. How do you balance that with this eternal mindset of like, yes, this is important, but it's not as important?
Yeah, that's actually a good question.
That is a good question. I'm still. So say that again.
How do you balance those in the moment stresses and worries and priorities with the eternal priorities, basically?
I honestly feel like I'm still working through that. You know what I mean? But it's definitely like, man, because you don't know what, like, obviously the end goal is to make it to heaven, but you don't know what the future holds. And so that is like a really difficult part of life is like, it's a trust factor. Yes. Like you have to trust that God has a plan for you. And I think we were just talking about this at one of our youth meetings. It was afterwards, and I begged the question, like, how do you have, I don't know, like confidence that the decisions you're making aren't the wrong decisions? You know what I mean? And like, how do those decisions affect your life, or was it already supposed to be that way? And like certain things like that kind of plague you a little bit because you don't want to make the wrong decision. I think Bishop literally just preached on that, and he was like, he was praying for someone, and he was like, you're afraid of making the wrong decisions because you're also afraid of people and how people react and things like that. So I think it's like an ongoing, I'm still figuring that part out right now. Yeah, I would say that.
That's actually very tough because I would like to like prance around as if like, I'm actually, but it's like, but honestly,
working on it.
because I mean, that's a big thing because like, I mean, we always, in our church, we always talk about how these are the end times and, you got to get, I'm like, man, well, maybe I should just, I need to hurry and do my stuff first because it's like, it's like, we may not have all this time in the world. And so like, the people who came before us, they have years before them, like who knows how long we have. And sometimes I do struggle with that. A lot of times I struggle with that because I myself try to figure out, what's for me and mine and what can I do right now. I guess even now my mindset is like, well, if I do everything first, then I'll, be in a comfortable position to do everything for other people that I wanted to do. But honestly, I'm thinking it may be a wrong mindset. I think it's going to be the opposite in that, to answer your question, I think if you're more focused on other people, like the fruit of the spirit, like love, joy, peace, long-suffering, all that stuff, and really apply that to other people and not so much yourself, I think we can. The problem is people think too much about themselves.
True.
And I think the more we try to fix our situations, try to take care of our stuff, while at the same time neglecting other people. Because honestly, everybody, you just said, I mean, everybody obviously is in this table is having that same, but if you were to help me or I was to help you and, help each other, we're in a sense leaving an impact in someone else's life and legacy because, years later, my help towards you could affect you in a different way. Like, man, you look back and say, oh, you helped me in this situation and helped me get here. And I think that's exactly what the kingdom of God is supposed to be. In reality, we're really supposed to be helping each other. It's like this, I was talking to David about this, one of my, our friends, whatever. I was saying this law of reciprocity is lost in this generation or just in this time now. It's like we only have this mindset of what can I do for myself, and then if I have this, maybe I can help other people.
Then
But
you
it's like,
can, yeah.
but it's backwards. It's like it's always been in Jesus' perspective. How can I help somebody else?
Yeah.
And then if I help them, it's going to get returned to me
Right.
in a different, you know what I'm saying, type situation. So it's like I can worry about my bills, I can worry about this and that, but what if just for the sake of just being kind to help somebody else with their stuff, you know? I'm not saying you got to pay somebody's mortgage,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? But like, I don't know, like if you just, I don't know, like just little things, like you pay for somebody's gas,
Yeah.
or if you help them out with a project they need help with, if you help on somebody else's life, not only is that helping them, but also fulfilling for yourself, and that you did something that when you leave this earth, there was a question on, it was like a this or that, and it was, would you rather have nobody show up for your wedding or nobody show up for your funeral? Most people said they would have nobody show up for the wedding because when you die, you want people to show up because that means that you left something behind. People remembered you by something.
Yeah.
And if you die, if people only remembered you as, oh, he only just took care of his bills, he only took care of, you know, himself, versus someone who took care of other people, who showed kindness, who showed love. And it is a balance. It is, because it is tough. But I just think if we get out of this mindset of me, myself, and mine, and you know, and we start thinking of like other people, it will drastically help shape the perspective of the temporary and the eternal. That's what I think.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a lesson that I've been learning in the last couple of years, because that has always been my mindset, more so like I don't have it to give, so I can't give. And so then, but trying to look at what I do have to give. Like I may not have the money to give because bills are bills. You, I mean, you can give and be living on the street if you want to, but like bills are bills. But it's like, look at what you can give. Can I give someone a kind word today? Can I show love in some sort of way, whether big or small? It still counts. And sometimes it's hard to remember that. But I think that what you're saying is important, that law of reciprocity and just giving to others and doing unto others as you would have them do unto you to the best of your ability. And
not looking for anything in return either, because you can't do something expecting something back. You have to do it just because it's the right thing to do, just because that's what Jesus would do. Everybody loves to say, what would Jesus do? But rarely people will actually do it. I feel like if people, and again, I'm working on this myself, but if you genuinely, and I'm learning, if you genuinely give yourself and sacrifice yourself for other people, it's going to get returned back to you. God is not unfaithful to forget your work and your love, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you're right. Sometimes we get so caught up in the, I don't have this, but you always got to ask your question, what do you have? You got two hands, you know, you got a working mind, you got two legs, maybe you got a car. There's a lot you can do with functioning limbs and a car. Like you can do a lot, you know? And I think we just get so consumed of the, like I said, just self-consumption that we forget about the lasting impact it can have. And more so to the grand of the topic, the eternal thing, like even in heaven, right? The Bible says, you know, if you sow little, you'll reap little. And if you sow much, you'll reap much. It's not just talking about here on earth. It's also talking about what's going to happen in heaven. Like, I mean, people just think that heaven is like this. It's going to be like this blissful paradise where you sleep on clouds all day, just worshiping God. But it's actually, I believe, it's actually going to be work. It's going to be life. It's going to be like
it's a new
activity.
earth.
It's going to be new earth. It's going to do things, and too much is given. You know, much is required. So it's like, if God is going to give you all this stuff, it's required for you to sacrifice yourself and help other people for the long term. You know, and people just don't have that mindset anymore. I feel like, or maybe they do, but it's just a hard thing to kind of digest. And the uncertainty of the future kind of prohibits people from really launching themselves out, and kind of is like, well, it's safer if I just stay in this lane and worry about myself versus, you know, what if it doesn't happen? Then I just wasted all this time and I could have, you know. So I get it.
I think it really is that you guys both seen Onward?
Yes.
That thing of like taking this step, and it only works if you believe. Like to have that trust that if I do pour into someone else, if I do seek first the kingdom of heaven, that all these things will be added.
I was literally gonna say that, Matthew 6:33.
Like the trust that I will be taken care of, even if I go out on a limb and give to someone when it might be the little bit that I have, but God does value that more than the person who has a ton and just, you know, doesn't give it from their heart.
Right.
So it's just, it's a balance, like you're saying.
Yeah, and like keeping God in mind in everything that you do, I think helps too, because I was at the gas station and some guy was asking me if I had a phone charger. I was like, I don't think we have the same phone, but I'm immediately a helper. So I'm automatically like, oh my gosh, like, do I have one? And so I was like, you know what, let's just go inside. I'll buy you one, whatever. And so I bought him one and he was trying to, you know, say cash at me the money back. I was like, you know what? No, take it. I was like, God loves you. And just like trying to figure out ways to incorporate God, I think automatically puts you in a heaven mindset, because you're automatically thinking like God, I want to do this for your glory, but I also want, like, when I get to heaven, the bishop preached on this in the Bible, it talks about a city like in heaven above like everything else. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be there. But it's also for like those special people who went above and beyond here. And so like, just, I don't know. I feel like for people who are not familiar with it, I feel like you should just study it, because then I feel like it'll give you more of a desire to want to be there, and want to have those things. And like, for example, we always talk about like, oh, I want to have more stars in my crown.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you guys kind of explain what that means to people, and kind of some things that might help people get more stars in their crown?
I'm actually not sure where that saying originated from, or where people say that. But I get the concept of what they're saying, right? I think what they're essentially saying is, the more kind, almost like the scripture says, if you sow, like I said before, if you sow much, you'll reap much. Essentially, that's what they're saying. The whole stars in the crown is, if you do kind things to people here on earth and do kind of the Lord's will as He, guides you, then when you get to heaven, your reward is going to be, very bountiful. And I think that's kind of what I don't know where the whole stars and crown came from. I'm sure there's a explanation for it. But again, at the core of it, I think they're saying their mindset is, how much can I do for other people so that my reward in heaven, because again, it's that eternal mindset. Jesus said, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
Yeah.
And to say that there's stars in their crown, their mindset is heaven. It's not, anybody could say, if I do things here on earth, then on earth I'll get a lot of good things, which is true. If you do good things on earth, then usually good things will happen. But, as Ecclesiastes says, we do live on earth and things are not always that cut and dry. Yeah. But in heaven, that is the case. Whatever you do down here on earth in terms of what God called you to do, living it out and, trusting in His Son and everything and all His sacrifices and whatnot, your reward in heaven will be great. And the more you give, the more it will be returned, pressed down, shaken together, running over, that those scriptures aren't just for earth, because if it was just for earth, Bishop said this recently. The rich people here on earth, that's kind of what they only have to look forward to is with their money now, their houses now. But like, when you die, what are you going to do with all that?
Right.
Yeah.
But in heaven, a place where there is no time, a place where God knows how much what is richness in heaven actually? What are mansions in heaven? Yeah. And so to have that mindset of saying, crowns of my stars, is automatically putting your mind of, I'm going to do things here on earth because I know in heaven it's going to be rewarded to me, whether or not I get it down here on earth. That's what I think.
I'm pretty sure the concept comes from Revelation. As far as like, well, okay, let me read this one. So this is Revelation 12:1 in ESV. And it says, and a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. And if I remember correctly, she has like gone through a lot of stuff, facing the dragon and all of that. Gotcha. So it's almost like a reward. And then like also in Revelations like 2 and 3, when he's talking to the churches, he says stuff like, I'll write my name in your forehead, and all these kind of like signs that you've overcome this certain amount of things. So it's just that like concept of this reward for everything that you've overcome. Right. And those people who go the extra mile have like extra rewards in that sense.
Yep. That makes sense.
That's good.
Like I said, I'm sure it was somewhere. I think I've heard it somewhere, or at least a concept of it. Of course, people just say it so.
It's like church lingo. That's why I was like, I'm pretty sure it was in, the Bible, but I was just like really wondering that because a lot of people say that, oh, just adds another star in my crown. I'm like, how many stars do we get? You know what I mean? So yeah.
I have a kind of a general question here. So I'm under the impression, obviously we've heard this a lot too. The only things you do for Christ here on earth will last.
Yes.
But we are human beings and we do live in a world. Is there anything that, or I should say, is it okay to ever do anything that's just like temporary or without any, should everything, I should say, I know you were saying earlier, everything should include God in it, which I agree. But sometimes I feel like a lot of Christians and a lot of people in general don't see it like that. They think it's okay to just, life is life. You should do whatever just chill. Should every single thing you do be heaven-minded? And what does that look like in every single aspect of life?
I would say it has more to do with like the fruits of the spirit. Like you watching a TV show with your family may not be the most spiritual thing, but like you are sharing a moment of love, of joy, of peace, of all these things that are godly principles.
Right.
So I think as long as what you're doing is rooted in a godly principle, then it will have a lasting impact of some sort, whether that's just in people's hearts or whether that is some great thing that lasts on this earth. But I think the saying in general, only what you do for Christ will last, is because this earth won't last anyway.
Exactly.
So at the end of the day, only the things that you do for Christ will last eternally. But I think those smaller things can last in the heart of men, as long as this earth continues. Yeah.
True. I can really just say I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, there's not really much else to say, but like God, I remember our bishop had said this before, like you can have like hobbies and things like that. And not everything that you do is just going to be like, Jesus, while you're playing basketball or whatever you're doing. But just as long as, like you were saying, like the fruits of the spirit, that's pretty good. Just as long as what you're doing pleases God and it's not anything that's, off or whatever.
Contrary to the word.
Contrary to the word, then I definitely believe that.
I agree. Yeah. That's solid. I like the fruits of the spirit example. Like, incorporating, and that's the thing. I think that's the thing what people forget too. Like you were saying before, hobbies and interests and all that stuff is totally fine to have.
Yeah.
But I also think back to the whole topic as a whole, like the temporary and eternal thing, for both Christians and sinners alike. Sometimes, specifically on the Christian side of things, sometimes we get so caught up in this life that we tend to forget that. Like, the hobbies are cool, but then sometimes people take it too far.
Yeah, that's true.
They start getting so indulged in their hobbies and they say, oh, well, it's not a sin that I'm doing this. It's not wrong that I'm doing that. I'm not going to go to hell for doing that. But it's that whole extra mile thing that you just talked about earlier, the whole suffering and the sacrifice. There was a time Bishop said in his, first 2 years of marriage, he didn't watch any TV. Not that it was the wrong thing to do, but just in some cases, the spiritual needs to... in all cases, the spiritual needs to outweigh the natural, but there is nothing wrong with natural things. There's nothing wrong with hobbies and stuff. But again, what I'm seeing in today's time and what I'm seeing in these churches and these videos I see, there's so much compromise.
Yes.
It's like they forget that there's the eternal side of things and they focus so much on the natural, on the temporary, that it becomes like, okay, are you guys missing the purpose here?
Right.
Like you guys, we're Christians. We don't, as I said in the other video, we're just like passerbyers. We're not citizens of this world. And more I see these churches and these preachers and these people, and it's just like, you guys are doing everything that, and then they always say it's not wrong, not a sin.
Yeah, but is it right?
But it's like, what are we doing here? You know what I'm saying? Like they have literally almost like taken on the mantle of the world. It's almost like you can't really differentiate between the two. And I feel like you can tell if a person has a mindset of eternity based off, like you said, are they really incorporating the fruits of the spirit in these things? Are they really incorporating God in everything that they do? And I think you can see it if you just observe and acknowledge it. But it's very important. It can be a slippery slope. I mean, this world, it can be very distracting. A lot of glittery things in this earth. But you got to remember this stuff. I mean, Jesus gave, he said during that time, nothing, there's no stone that won't be unturned. The fire is just going to burn everything up. And sometimes we forget that a lot.
Yeah.
Nothing is going to last here.
And I think the Bible does talk about that balance enough where we should hold on to those things, like being in the world but not of the world. Or just like it's very easy for things to become an idol. I think it's something that churches either talk too much or too little about, idolization, where it's like, sometimes I've heard people talk about it so much that I'm like, okay, but what are we actively doing to serve God, and not just saying that everything is an idol? Like, but also sometimes we don't talk about it enough because it's very easy for, like you said, like a hobby or an interest. Then we get so caught up in it that we're not spending time with God. We're not in our word. So then it has become an idol because it's something that you love more than you love God. And I feel like in our minds we're like, no, it's not, because I love God, but your actions are speaking louder than your words.
Absolutely.
And like you said, where your heart is, that's where your treasure is also. And if your treasure is in worldly things, then clearly your heart is too. And it's like just having that balance of like, yes, this is a good thing, but at the end of the day, everything that I do needs to be giving glory back to God.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form. And if it's not, then that's something to reassess. Or even back to like discernment. Like I always love when Paul talks about the whole like, he's saying like it's not wrong to eat meat that's offered to idols because the idols aren't real. Right. But if it offends someone, if it's being a stumbling block to someone, then that's a problem. Like everyone has their own convictions, and if you're going against your own convictions that God has given you, then it is a sin. Right. Yeah. It may not be in the Bible as a sin, but you're directly disobeying God. Yep. So it is a sin.
Yeah, and like sometimes you have to ask yourself, how is what I'm doing affecting my relationship with God? Yes. Because I was like thinking about this recently. Like, for example, I love sneakers. If you don't know me, I love shoes. I actually like collecting a lot of things, but sneakers is like one of the things that I'm like, man, I gotta have those. And like one day I was like sitting down and thinking about like, man, like I'm investing so like not so much, but I am investing a little bit in what I have for shoes. And it's like, but should I not do that and maybe invest in something more important like a home? And how will that affect my relationship with God? How will that affect what I do, what I can do for others? Because I know like getting a home, what that can do for me, stuff like that. So like, how does like, it's almost like your priorities have to be in order. Like, sorry, babes, you can't get a pair of shoes this month because you're investing in something a little bit more important. Yeah. And I think that if people can just like set their priorities straight, it'll help them think more on the things of God. Not to say that you can't like get nice things. Like people love clothes. People just love to buy new clothes. And that's what they love. If you can afford it. But if you can think about maybe investing your time, your energy, your money into things that could help somebody else or do better, like you were saying, for your family, for further generations ahead of you if God delay is coming. Like, I don't know. I feel like that would help us have more of an eternal mindset than like temporary things, because none of those things are going to last. The Bible talks about fool's gold, like things that we buy that is just like, it's going to burn up at some point. So
that's why I think like fasting is so important, because it like reminds you everything in moderation. Right. Yeah. Like even if it's like a social media fast or like you said, if you love sneakers, maybe you take a fast from buying sneakers for the next few months, just because you're able to like reassess your priorities a lot more, I think. And you're able to like focus on like, God, am I giving you enough? Am I, supporting my ministry enough? Am I doing what you've called me to do? And I think it's a nice little breather to like reassess and like constantly have your mind on God while, because it can be so distracting and you can get so caught up in things.
No, I 100%. And as you guys were talking, I was thinking, because that's another thing about focusing on the wrong thing, right? You were talking about how you should have a mindset on God, which is 100% true. And I think the number one important thing that'll keep you in that eternal mindset, because even the good things you do, like for instance, this Catch podcast, it's a good thing that we're doing. We're trying to leave an impact, but none of this matters if we don't have that relationship with God still. That's like the most, I mean, you can go to church all day long, you can fast, you can tithe, you can do whatever you want. But the most important thing is still maintaining that relationship with God.
Yeah.
And another thing I just see a lot of Christians, they love to claim that they do this or that. That's nice. That's amazing. That's awesome. But never neglect. Some people think that, you know, like let's just use the Catch as an example. I'm on a podcast. I'm talking about Jesus a lot. I'm talking about God a lot. So yeah, sometimes you can talk about him more than you actually talk to him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's just like, everything's a balance, but if you keep God first, he'll balance everything out. And again, I'm not perfect myself. I say this all the time. Anytime I'm on a podcast or talking to people, because I don't want to present myself as somebody who's flawless. There's something I'm learning about myself, things I'm working on myself. But it's the truth, because if you keep God first and you really are doing it for his glory, keeping him in mind, God, how can I please you? How can I spread the gospel? How can I do that? Maintain that relationship with him, everything else will fall into place. And I said this again in the other video too. Another thing I feel like that is neglected in both the Christian and the sinner's walk is contentment. Contentment is such a beautiful thing. And as I said in the other podcast with Jeremiah, I was saying what Paul said. He said, godliness with contentment is great gain. Yeah. The amount of things that a person can gain by just being content is out of this world. I mean, of course we want things, right? We desire things, but man is never satisfied with what he has. He always wants more. And the ironic thing about that is because we're here on earth knowing that we can never get more because we know it's going to end, but yet we still strive to get it. Like it's like grasping for straws here. And it's like, if we learn, the funny thing is, if you learn to be content with God, if you learn to be content, you will gain everything, especially here in eternity. You'll gain eternity. If you with Christ and you're content with what you have, you'll gain everything you need. And it's it's easier said than done. It's this walk that we live in. We have a heart that desires to just do what it's on, the flesh that just, but that contentment, being content with having a lot, if you have a lot, being content with having a little, if you have a little, being content with having, if you have, you know what I'm saying? It's just whatever you have, just being grateful for it, being thankful. Paul says to always be thankful in everything. People always want to know what the will of God is. Paul tells us what the will of God is. He says, what does he say? I'm drawing a blank here. Something on the lines of, rejoice evermore, pray without ceasing.
Oh, yeah. And everything give thanks. Yeah, this is the will of God.
Exactly. Yeah. And so many people neglect that. So many people feel like without Christ, so many people think that even with Christ, they're still missing out. But it's like, no, with Christ, you have everything plus more. He came to give life and have it more and give it to you more abundantly. And again, it's just these mindsets. That's why Paul said to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's why he said, think on things that are true, that are pure, honest, just, a good report. These kind of things are to think about, because honestly, when you change your mindset on the way you think, you become, as the Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Whatever you think about a lot is what you become. And if you think about Christ a lot, if you think about things that are in heaven, if you think about, godly things, you become, and you begin to attract what you become. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to attract eternity, you got to start thinking about eternal things and not so much the temporary and not so much about yourself, which causes so many problems that so many people just don't realize.
That's very true. Because I was going to say, and that's the real context of I can do all things through Christ.
That's what I said. Yeah, exactly.
Because we love to use it for like, I can do, the
can win this baseball game.
The real context is I can be a base and abound. I can have a lot. I can have a little. But I'm content because with Christ, I can do all things because he strengthens us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it's seeing people who you look up to say those things. And then you have to sit back and be like, you're right. I think that too. I remember, for those who don't know, our Bishop and Elect Lady, they have children. Their daughter, Minister Rachel, she has said this to us once, and I always think about this. She was like, if I never have a Rolls Royce, if I never have this, if I never get that, I'm content because I have God. And I don't know, she said that with so much passion that I'm like, you're right. If I never get that thing, like I have to be content because I'm with God. And like, that's the most important thing. We want that for our family members. Why want that for our family members, but we don't want it for ourselves? You know what I mean? Like I want, my family members to get saved and to go to heaven. And if I want that for them, I first have to have it for me. Yeah. And so a part of that is contentment. And a lot of people do struggle with that. I didn't realize I struggled with contentment until somebody told me. And I was like, no, I don't. No, I don't. Like,
no, it's a tough thing.
Yes, you do. And it's like, dog, maybe I do. But yeah, it's like something you have to literally, certain things you have to ask God to help you. Like, God, help me with this. Help me to be satisfied in you and you alone, to where everything else, not to say it doesn't matter, but it's just like, but with you, it kind of doesn't. Right. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah. And I know the context of Job, I love bringing up Job, by the way. Yeah. Anytime we have conversations.
I love Job. Job is my favorite.
There's so much you can learn from it, and so many different avenues you can take, but I want to take it from the avenue of contentment. When Job was going through all that stuff, so many questions that he had was, why is this happening? Why do I have to go through that? All his friends were, talking. He kept asking God, show yourself. Why? And the beautiful thing about it is when God revealed himself and told Job all this stuff and in the world and everything, right afterwards, Job was like, I've heard with my ears, but now I've seen with my eyes. And it was like, almost like he finally understood, like he had God. Like this is, people get so upset with that story in that they say, well, God never gave him an actual answer. Like, that's not fair. God, he let Job go through all this stuff. And, it was God who actually initiated this thing by even bringing him up to Satan. Like, why would God even do that? But like, his answer to Job was so beautiful, just explaining everything about the world, creation, everything about who he was. And people don't realize, I was talking to someone else about this. People don't realize that the reason why one of the reasons I believe that Job was so quick to be able to like just humble himself. This is God we're talking about, who's actually talking to you. I remember he said, I've only heard from my ear. He said, but now I see. Like, this is God himself coming down in a whirlwind, equivalent to like Moses in a burning bush, equivalent to, Abraham's. Like, this is God himself coming and talking, the God of the universe. At that point, it's like, you
have all you need right there.
But this is like, come on, like all these atheists and whatnot say, no, this is actually like God talking face to face to a man. And at that point, no matter what God said, whether he gave him an answer or not, I'm talking to, no, he actually exists. Right. I actually see it with my eyes now. Therefore, it's like, I get it now. Like, it all makes sense. And so having and reading that story and realizing, God exists is like, hey, he's in my life too. The same God who talked to Job, the same God who talked to Moses and Abraham and Joseph and all these people, did all these miracles and signs. And I'm like, wait a second, this is the same God I still got. So it's like, I may not have this or that, but like I said before to someone else, I've never seen the righteous forsaken. I've never seen his seed begging for bread personally. I've never seen anybody who 100% gave themselves to God and was disappointed or was like they've always abounded in life. As a matter of fact, like even our leadership, let's take that for example. They talk about their struggles in life and when they were first coming up in their first marriage, their first 14 years of marriage. Very tough, hardship, monetary. But look at them now. Like they're wanting nothing. God has given them everything that they need and more because they serve God. Not because our leadership are chosen vessels of God. They don't do anything grimy. They don't underhand. They only serve God to the best of their ability, and God rewards them for it. Right. And I see them. They don't have to get over on people and steal from the church like all these, some people that I hear doing. I'm like, that's crazy. If you give yourself to God and content with what you have, he'll supply everything and he'll give you just what you need.
I love Bishop said that recently where he was like, you might be looking at me and like, why is he dressed like that? He's like, well, I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't gamble, so I should have known.
Exactly.
Like, there's going to be a testimony down the road. But this has been a great conversation.
Yes,
I hope you guys have learned a lot. Thank you so much for listening, and we will
catch you later.